Warning: the following program contains coarse language and potentially radical ideas about gender. So if you're at work, put your fucking headphones on. On this week's edition,
Turn the radio on to hear the word tranny come booming out of my subwoofer. The city of Toronto, the city of Rob Ford.
I have a moment of absolute frustration, discomfort, hatred, anxiety for my...
Yes, I am a trans person.
We will not be able to get change because the invisible people can be beaten, legislated against, and just flat out hated.
Do a little quick response video.
Hi, I'm Nancy Evelyn Gold, and welcome to the second edition of This Week in Gender. We're going to start things off like we do every week with some news. Our lead story tonight comes to us from our neighbors to the north, Canada. Canada, a country we think of as being very liberal, a country that seems to be able to give rights to all their citizens, a country that pays for transgendered surgery. But if all of this is the case, why did UK comedian Avery Edison, a trans woman who has not had genital surgery yet, she was detained at the airport over visa issues. Now, the visa issues weren't that bad. Just so you understand, she overstayed her student visa when she was previously in Canada. She came back with a non-refundable ticket, a copy of her lease in the UK to prove that she was just here to visit her girlfriend and pick up stuff that she had left behind. Canada freaked out. The city of Toronto, the city of Rob Ford, the city of Justin Bieber. These people are insane. Avery Edison just wanted to see her girlfriend and get some nookie and pick up some stuff. They called her he. They misgendered her. And believe it or not, they took her to a male jail. Now, last night that was corrected and she was taken to a female jail. She tweeted the entire time before she was sent to jail. This was insane. There's been an uproar, of course, across the net, and a lot of organizations are coming to her side. Now, as of right now, as we're filming here on the night of the 12th, I have not heard anything about Avery being released. But Avery, my heart goes out to you. This is really stupid, and to think that a country like Canada could do such a thing. So, of course. Canada! Now, let's have some good news. Our second story comes out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And Blake Brockington. Now, Blake is a trans teen. He dreamed of being homecoming king. And guess what? It happened. Our country got its first trans male homecoming king. He helped raise money for efforts at the school, over $2,000 worth of money, and he was voted overwhelmingly by the student body. Now, if you compare this to Melissa Maine, who won her court case in Maine last week so that she could use the appropriate bathrooms, where she was overwhelmingly supported by her student body. They cheered when they heard the news. The kids seem to fucking get it. The parents are the ones that are saying, oh, it's all the children, it's all rights, it's all about this, it's always about the children, about the children. Well, the children get it. The parents don't seem to understand. Our kids know what is right. And I think that these young women and young men that are standing up to be who they truly are, and the fact that student bodies are supporting them is fucking stellar. Now, our last story tonight is something that I wish wasn't a story. Let's talk for a moment about Bruce Jenner. Now, Us Magazine, National Toilet, the National Enquirer, probably the Star and every other piece of shit newspaper in this country are all a Twitter about Bruce Jenner supposedly transitioning to female. This picture shows Bruce with something that looks like breasts and the bandage around his neck that could be from a tracheal shave. Now, does this mean that Bruce is becoming a woman? I don't know. Do I need to make a guess? No. Part of the trans community says, look at the picture. 2 + 2 = 4. Well, they can believe that. But until we hear from Bruce Jenner that Bruce Jenner is becoming female or transitioning, it's none of our fucking business. Now, believe it or not, these rumors have been going around for 21 years. Back when I first had electrolysis, when I transitioned 21 years ago, my electrologist told me rumors of Bruce Jenner getting his beard removed in preparation for transgender surgery. You know, it's none of our business. These newspapers need to butt out of his life, and just because he was on Keeping with the Kardashians does not mean that he's completely a target. Let the man do what he needs to do, and if that means that he is a she, Bruce will let us know. Until then, we have no business armchair quarterbacking whether this is a transition or not. So this story is about what we shouldn't do, not about what we think is happening. And that's our news for this week.
I tried to get top surgery covered, or chest reconstruction surgery covered, and they denied me coverage because they said it was not medically necessary. So one of the things I thought that would really educate people on the topic of transgender surgery being covered under health insurance is because that day when I got back, my reaction, I didn't expect it, and I wrote in my journal about a lot of the things that have been going through my mind and my body just because I was having a really visceral reaction. So I'm going to read from my journal. So I will be looking at you, but I will also be looking at my journal. So this was July of last year of 2013, and I said, first, I think as a trans man, I've been finding life becoming increasingly more difficult and an overwhelming sense of anxiety, especially when the administrative assistant from the surgeon I saw calls me back and matter-of-factly states that, turn the page, quote, your insurance won't cover the procedure because they do not find it medically necessary. Then one of the things I originally thought of when she said this was I know she didn't mean for it to be that heavy, but it made me sick to my stomach. And I said, in my journal, I said, then you tell them to live like this for 1 month and get back to me. How in the heck do you think it makes me feel? I wake up every morning and dread binding my chest. I have to take a shower at night, so putting on a tight canvas binder on wet skin doesn't make it more painful and frustrating than it already is. And then I kind of went off, and I'm going to censor myself a little bit because I just kind of, there's a lot of words in there that I think you get the gist. But every morning I put on my binder and flatten my chest. And to avoid reminding me that they are still there, I bind them down as tight as possible, and I usually adjust them a lot to the left and the right. I peek straight down my binder like you would a t-shirt just to make sure that everything is flat enough. Then I usually shove them further down for just one more check and make sure that on either side of my binder, under my armpit, nothing is coming out. After I've bound myself up in what feels like my chest suit, I put on my harness and packer, boxer briefs, and then I'm ready to get dressed in actual clothing. Every single morning I have a bout, or I just lose it, just a little bit. And it's every morning. No matter how fleeting, I have a moment of absolute frustration, discomfort, hatred, anxiety for my body, myself, and having to do this to my body to feel normal and comfortable with the only body and skin that I'm in. So when I hear medically unnecessary, it is a nail pounded with a very unempathetic hand and hammer without even an attempt to sympathize with the severe discomfort and anxiety I feel every single fucking day. And I've been wearing my binder full time for 3 years. And at that time, and now I'm almost on my 4th year. So every day, I honestly wish that this wasn't the truth, but I found wishing gets you nowhere, so I just have to accept reality and accept that this is my life. And so that was a section from the day that I found out that my surgery wasn't going to be covered. And then I also had a conversation with someone who worked at an insurance company and was talking to them about insurance or about transgender healthcare covered by insurance, and she worked for Highmark, and I asked her about it. I said, you know, a lot of times we got to talking about transgender surgery, and she said, you know, the companies who cover that eat the cost of the trans surgery, and transgender surgery for female to male chest reconstruction surgery averages about $6,000 from a lot of the figures I've seen thrown around by many different surgeons. And so knowing that, then I think of the company I work for now, which is Bank of New York Mellon, and they have a very inclusive healthcare package. Now, I am right about to check in with them and see if I can get it covered, knowing that they cover it. And the reason I know that it's covered is because someone I know who works there, she got her son's transgender surgery covered through her employer, which is Bank of New York Mellon. And so I think, I'm like, okay, if a company eats the cost, then why the company I work for, which I feel really proud to work for, that they actually support me and feeling comfortable and having it be medically necessary, because it truly is, then what, you know, where's the argument? Why haven't other companies who are larger in scale, because I understand that a lot of times it comes down to your bottom line, haven't covered this or haven't you know, taken the steps to support it at least, or to at least support other things. I know within trans healthcare there's a lot of other things that are covered or that have to do with it, such as hormones. I know that specifically just from a female to male, from a transgender male perspective, from my perspective. Not so much on the male to female side as far as my education goes, but that is one of the main topics that I think it should be a discussion that is talked about a lot more within the healthcare community. And I know that I feel like a lot of times it's not necessarily talked about as much unless a company actually takes this stance on it. And if transgender healthcare if trans health surgery and medical whatever is covered, that'll be the first step to educating people more, and even educating doctors. But I think it's really important on the first level to educate the public as much as possible about being trans, because a lot of people don't know it. And even people who I've become friends with, even after a couple months, they're hesitant to ask me questions after I've already said, hey, P.S. I give you the trans question flag. Like, you get free zone to ask me any questions you want, not because, like, I take the stance of being kind of trying to be an ambassador, because you don't learn about this stuff. I didn't learn about this stuff growing up. I learned about it because I found out and realized it for myself, and then had to research it and be like, what do I do? So that's one of the things I think that's really important as far as in the trans community, talking about healthcare and coverage, and just also because a lot of times you need to personally take care of yourself, but when you have the support of other healthcare providers, it makes it less difficult, and a lot of times you don't end up having these really intense visceral reactions that were really unexpected. Thank you guys so much, and thank you everyone out there for watching this. It's an excellent show, and it's one of those steps to help educate everybody about trans issues and just trans education all-encompassing. I also perform as a drag king / trans king under the alias Robin Banks, and you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/alwaysrobinbanks, and it's ROBINBANKS. I'm also part of a gender performance troupe here in Pittsburgh full of kings. We have some queen performers sometimes we bring in. We have femme performers. We have a little bit of everything. We're called Hot Metal Hardware or HMH. And I'm also a part of a group fundraising effort for other trans guys to help fund for top surgery here in Pittsburgh. And the fundraiser is called Dude Where's My Chest? It's fantastic. We have a GoFundMe account, and it's just a lot of times in that fundraiser, in addition, it's to help get us started and motivated to raising money. And it's also just about education on the topic in trans issues in general. So thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Jessica McGinnis. I am a 38-year-old trans woman, and I live in the South Hills of Pittsburgh, more specifically Dormont. Yes, I am a trans person. and this is something I knew about myself probably when, going back to like the age of 4 or 5. But I'm going to try to keep this as short as I can. Basically, I just denied who I was all throughout my childhood, teenage, and into my 20s. And then whenever I was 24, I became an EMT. Well, that's an important part. We'll get back to that in a minute. So whenever I was 30 years old, I fell off a bridge. Whenever I was camping in West Virginia and I fell off a bridge, I fell 15 feet. I landed on my feet, and then I rolled downhill for another 15 feet over rocks. Now, the one part I didn't tell you is that I have severe hemophilia. Realistically, I probably should have been killed because that is, my blood doesn't clot. I hit my head, I cracked my head open here, and I'm sure the lighting here is really showing off my scar. No, I have scar going right through here. I busted open my lip, cracked my head open in the back, broke my leg, screwed up my back, everything else. So it took about 8 months of recovery. About the first 2 months, I really couldn't get off my couch or anything like that. So I knew what I was. I didn't like my life up until that point because realistically I should have been killed. And if I would have died, I would not have liked the person I left. So I decided to take that time whenever I was off work to start my transition. So slowly I started transitioning, coming out to friends. I just, started, hormone replacement therapy, seeing a therapist, and we won't get into all of the specifics or anything like that. But eventually, now here we get back to the EMT part. Eventually, I came out at work, and essentially my way of doing this was writing my story I know I'm one of those unique people that came out on Facebook. So I ended up posting this long letter because these people I have been with for a long time. In EMS, God, we see, we work together, we teach each other everything, we witness all of these horrible things. They deserved a lot more than, hi, my name is Jessica, and I am going to be going by this starting on Monday. I'm trans, have a good day. No, so I felt like I owed them a little bit more of an explanation. So I went through and I wrote this long thing of how horrible, problems I had growing up, and various just basically gender-related issues and how hard it was for me to grow up and how I got to the point where I wrote that. So I posted that on the secret Facebook page for my work, and then all of the responses. Now the responses were overwhelmingly positive. They were incredible, to be honest with you. And they ended up, eventually that letter and their responses got published in a book called American Heroes Coming Out From Behind the Badge by Greg Moralia. It's stories of the LGBT who work in police, fire, and EMS, and I am the only trans story in either of Greg's books. So that, I think, started my advocacy, everything I do with that. Okay, right around that time, right before the book I think got published, I started thinking about what a lot of trans women do is what we call living stealth. Just basically blending into society and not telling people we're trans, just to, not call attention upon ourselves. So I ended up, I couldn't do that because I remember looking back throughout my childhood, and the only role models I ever had when I was 7 years old were on Sally Jesse, they were on Geraldo or Morton Downey Jr., anything like that. And I had nobody to turn to, I had nobody to look up to, and I just felt like a freak. I just thought people wouldn't like me or anything else, and I refused to let people do that again. So if I can use my face to make any sort of positive image or difference for anybody who's growing up feeling like that, I was going to do it. So since then, I've done multiple book events. I did one in San Francisco. We did a couple here in Pittsburgh. I also speak at colleges. I've worked on a few advocacy events. let me see, and outreach for the trans community. And I currently work. I'm no longer in EMS. Thank you, hemophilia, but my ankles gave out and I can't do that job anymore. So I currently work at it's the Pitt Men's Study. It's a 30-year-old HIV study attached with the University of Pittsburgh. It's, which is basically, that is a dream come true for me, because again, I have hemophilia. I grew up in I was born in 1975. I grew up through the initial AIDS outbreak in the 1980s. I have severe hemophilia A. The people who had that specific illness, 90% of us became seroconverted into HIV positive. And most of the kids I knew whenever I was little, they're all gone. They all died in the mid-90s. And Ryan White is actually, I never met him, but he had the same type and severity that I have. So now me working in HIV research is really a dream come true. Okay. As far as one of my main goals in my advocacy would be visibility. Okay, and and I really do believe that is the most important thing a trans people can do right now. Prior to, God, you really never saw too many trans people around unless they were on those old talk shows. Need I bring up Jerry Springer or anything like that? But those are basically all the trans people ever had to look at was, the people you saw in there. Think about any time that you see in the media, okay, whenever you see a trans person, we'll go with fictional characters, okay, always prostitutes, always, always murderers, freaks, treated as comic relief. That vision of Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs, what scene I'm talking about, the goodbye horses, that will forever haunt our image. And we have been working against that for a long time because that's really not the reality of it. One of the things that we'll even go back some other examples, okay? In the TV show, there was a TV show called Dirty Sexy Money, okay? And there was a trans woman on there named Candace Kane. Got all this praise for being the first trans woman to actually play got all this praise for being the first trans woman to play a trans woman on, primetime television. She's still an escort. Okay, Laverne Cox, brilliant. I love Laverne Cox. I think she's somebody that the trans community really needed for a very long time. But her role in Orange is the New Black is still a prisoner. Okay, I was an EMT for 12 years. And when was the last time you ever seen an EMT on, a trans EMT or a trans office worker or a think of any occupation. Point is, you haven't seen them, okay? Because we're still stigmatized as those same old stereotypes. The way to cure that is through visibility, okay? As I mentioned, I was thinking about going stealth, but I decided to use my name to try to be a positive role model. If I'm walking around in public saying, "Hi, I'm Jessica McGinnis," and granted, I don't announce that I'm trans to everyone. It's not like I walk around with a T-shirt that says, "Hi, I'm trans," or, can I have a medium coffee with 2 sugars? And by the way, I'm trans. I don't do that. But you have to somehow tell people, because if you don't tell people that you're trans, or people will never have a positive face to associate that with that word. Okay, and the best way to counter that image of Buffalo Bill in the mirror is by simply saying I'm trans and living my life. That is the most important thing that a trans people can do. That's, slowly, I think we're getting to that point. I guess it's just, I transitioned almost 10 years ago, And just within maybe the last 2 or 3 years, that's it. Within the last 2 or 3 years, I'm starting to actually see improvements. People are being called out for mispronouncing people on the air, on radio shows or news shows or anything like that. People are actually being called out for that instead of, organizations just letting them slide by things like that. I think that we have a long way to go, but for the first time in a long time, I actually feel a lot of hope for the future. And right now, being involved in the trans community here in Pittsburgh, I have a lot of hope because I think the trans community here in Pittsburgh is very vibrant, a lot of personality, and we're doing good things.
Hi, welcome to a segment we call Visibility with a capital T. To start us off, I'm going to show you a little clip of the incredible Harvey Milk, just to give you some idea of what visibility means.
My name is Harvey Milk, and I'm here to recruit you. I want to recruit you for the fight to preserve your democracy. Brothers and sisters, you must come out. Come out to your parents. Come out to your friends, if indeed they are your friends. Come out to your neighbors. Come out to your fellow workers. Once and for all, let's break down the myths and destroy the lies and distortion.
Harvey Milk was talking about gays and lesbians and about the need for them to come out to be able to get change. Now, the trans community currently faces the same issue. So many folks in the trans community are what we call stealth because they, quote, pass. They don't want to be known for having a trans background. They just want to be their true gender, and they just want to live their lives. And that's okay. However, unless some of us, actually a lot of us, stand up and make ourselves known, we will not be able to get change because the invisible people can be beaten, legislated against, and just flat out hated. The more real we are, the better off we are. And that brings me to a topic of infighting in the transgendered community. In the trans community, we seem to like fighting each other. And one excellent example is something that occurred over the last couple of weeks. As Janet Mock and Laverne Cox have been doing lots of publicity and press, some people in the trans community have taken issue with the fact that, for example, Janet Mock is only come out 2 years ago. People have also taken issue with, believe it or not, their race. It's not about race. It's not about how long somebody's been out. Any voice is a good voice. We need a variety of voices. We need people to stand up. Janet Mock deserves the press she's getting. She wrote a book which is being published by a major publisher. The people that were making these accusations and were basically hating on them are people that didn't write books. Yes, they're advocates. Yes, they're trans activists. But you can't fucking get jealous and start making it about things like race or making it about things like you paid your dues and you're not on CNN. I'm sorry. Some people don't get on CNN and some people that work their butts off do. Now, I will admit, both Janet and Laverne are model perfect. They do not represent the majority of the community, but they are a start, and this creates the conversation. So, is it a bad thing that we have two model perfect trans women out there talking about us? No. Does it cast a shadow on the rest of the community? Yes, it does. Trans men and people of different gender expressions, like myself, aren't accurately portrayed when the two people that are out there doing all the press are, once again, model perfect females. But it's good. There's nothing wrong with people getting popular. It just means that as they get their press, we have to work on getting ours. If you want to be known in this community and you want to be a voice, do the work. I work several days a week to make this program happen. This program is about information, education, and even entertainment. To be visible is absolutely the only thing we can do to make ourselves known. If we don't step up and talk for ourselves, we're going to let other people do it. And as you know, the LGBT community at large doesn't speak for the trans community as loudly as they speak for themselves. This has to happen. We cannot afford to infight. And I will tell you that infighting seems to happen in every city, in every state, probably around the country. Gender police, people that say you're not trans enough, you're not female enough, you shouldn't be between male and female. It's bullshit. Fuck the gender police. The real police cause us enough problems. We don't need to be staring at our own brothers, sisters, and others. Don't fucking do it. We need to be united. We may have differences of opinion. If we do, let's work on them constructively. Let's accept that our brothers and sisters may have another opinion, and the only way to get our opinion out there is to make it known. Send me some email if you'd like to be on this show. I'd be more than happy to take voices, but do not go to Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, everything, and badmouth people that are doing hard work. Laverne Cox is a transgendered actress making a living and being critically acclaimed for her work in Orange is the New Black. Janet Mock wrote a book. She sat down and wrote a freaking book. These people deserve what they're getting. And Janet Mock has stood up and has been fighting against being bullied by people like Piers Morgan. So, don't think you're being heard? Open your mouth a bit wider. Don't think you're being heard? Talk louder. And that's all I've got for this edition of Visibility. I just wanted to say thank you for all of the great comments and responses we've had to the first episode. I also have a response video, which is something that I've never had before. So if you want to do the same, send me a video, a link, a letter, a postcard, whatever. We'll share it with folks. And this is from Melanie Dawn. It's on her YouTube channel. And thanks for watching.
Hey everyone. This is kind of out of the blue, but I was scrolling or trolling Facebook and I came across a link to a video called This Week in Gender, and it talks about it's basically like a trans video podcast, or not even, I don't even know how to describe it really, but it was pretty funny, pretty interesting, pretty informative, and I wanted to do a little quick response video because of a couple of things that were touched on in the video that kind of hit home in a way for me. So I wanted to, I started to type this out, and then I thought it might be easier to do it as a video because, well, as people who follow my videos or follow my YouTube page, they know I make a video for everything. So basically what I said was, or what I wanted to say was, this is directly what I wrote, said, I have to admit, as a transitioning trans woman, too much trans? Maybe not. I used to feel people who say they are trans but are not on HRT, or who don't change their name and gender marker, or don't live full-time in their target gender, I guess that's the term, are just cross-dressers who want to fit in our community. I'm not sure why you would want the stigma of being trans when you're really not, but that was my fucked up logic. The longer I'm in the community and transitioning, about 5 years or so, I realized I was wrong. I also realized not having surgery, being on HRT, etc., has very little to do with what your heart and mind say you are. Facing the very real possibility that I may never be able to afford GRS has opened my eyes and made me see the error of my ways. After a lot of self-reflection, I came to this conclusion, and not just because I may never have my surgery, but because I, of all people, should be more accepting of my fellow trans brothers and sisters and not be so fucking judgmental. I used to be, like I said, I used to be a bit of a trans snob, and now I'm a human. I hope all trans people, regardless of their situation, are and can be happy and content however they live their lives by choice or through uncontrolled circumstances. And what I didn't write, but I just got to thinking about this, was that the infighting in the trans community makes me sick. And I've been pretty sheltered away for the last year and a half, going through my marriage ending and kind of my alcohol problems and not being around trans people so much. But I've seen it online, and it's, we get enough shit from people, from cisgendered people, that we don't need to give each other shit. And it kind of, we call ourselves a community, but there's a lot of times we just don't fucking act like a community. So, yeah, we need to get our shit together and unite instead of fight. So, anyway, that's all I really needed to say, or wanted to say. I think I'm getting stood up for my date tonight. Anyway, thank you for watching. I will see y'all on the flip side. Wow, did I really just say that?
Suck my non-existent...
Welcome to this week's edition of Suck My Non-Existent Cock, my weekly segment where I call out one deserving asshole and invite them to suck my non-existent cock. Our deserving asshole this week is a man by the name of Marty Griffin. Marty Griffin is a local Pittsburgh TV and radio personality. He has a drive time morning show, and he also appears on the news. Now, let me show you a little bit of Marty.
And I'm working for you. With your help, I'm uncovering information and creating change. My show is just for you, Pittsburgh.
He talks about creating change for us. Well, I don't know who us is. My introduction to this guy was one day when I woke up, got in my Jeep, turned the radio on to hear the word tranny come booming out of my subwoofer. Yes, he used the word tranny. He also outed Jessica McGinnis, who is on this episode also. Now, he said that there are no studies in the United States of America that show the number of transgendered people, and that clearly the trans community here in Pittsburgh only has 2 to 3 people in it. Well, if that was the case, they've all been on this week's show, and a different set of them was on last week's show. I don't get it. And you know what? He doesn't seem to want to get it either. He challenged me to bring a group of folks down to his studio. I agreed. I talked to his freaking voicemail. I've sent him Facebook messages. Yet this promised hour to see him has not materialized. And for that reason, it's pretty clear that Marty only wants sensationalism, and I'll probably only hear from him when he needs some ratings. So for these reasons, and because of the damage that using the words tranny can do, Marty, I heartily and from the deepest part of my soul invite you to suck my non-existent cock. If you'd like to debate, you know where to find me. Will it ever happen? I don't know, but we can get a whole bunch of people down there to your studio. There's plenty of us. So once again, Marty, just to make it clear, suck my non-existent cock. That's this week's edition of Suck My Non-Existent Cock, and have a great week.
Hey, Nancy, are you forgetting anything?
Editing, Alistair, I'm editing.
But are you forgetting anything?
Okay, let me think. We did the news. I did those graphics and got that. And, not again. Okay, folks, let's get this over with. If you didn't like what you saw, you can go ahead and email me. This is a real email address. fuckyou@thisweekingender.org. Now, if you liked what you saw, if you have some comments, you want to give me an idea, Nancy@thisweekingender.org. You can follow me on Twitter @NancyEvelynGold. On Facebook, we're the Gender Dances Project, or just Gender Dances, so fb.com/genderdances, fb.com/thisweekingender if you just want to follow the show. Starting this week, we have a funding project, fundanything.com/ well, you know what? Forget me reading that out. I'm just going to pop a link up here somewhere. Okay? And in addition to that, don't forget, Dude, Where's My Chest?, which is a Pittsburgh project to get 4 deserving men their top surgery. So that's all we've got for this week. We'll catch you again next week. See you next Thursday night. You guys have a great week.